All right. Well, good. And we'll kick us off here. So, welcome. Thank you very much for attending this cycle wellness webinar. We have a great workshop for you today entitled The Secret of Getting Everything You Want, Harnessing Self-Advocacy to Create the Life You Desire. So I'm Adam McShane. I'm one of the cycle members, and I'm excited to introduce our speaker presenter today, Mr. Patrick Fulton. He's a professional leader. He's in professional leadership and life coach based in Salt Lake City. He's known for his transformative, good-humored approach to personal and professional growth with the deep ability to listen and challenge. Patrick helps clients uncover clarity, build confidence, and take purposeful action, especially during pivotal moments in their careers and lives. And I want to thank Patrick for presenting for us today. And without further ado, the floor is yours.
All right. Thanks so much, Adam. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you today. As Adam said, my name is Patrick Fulton. I'll give you a little bit more of a fuller introduction here in a second. But I'm so excited and want to acknowledge you for taking the time to join today. Our topic is the secret to getting everything you want, harnessing self-advocacy to create the life you desire. So hopefully that title in and of itself got you a little bit intrigued. This is going to be a slightly different kind of presentation than you might be used to. This is all about you. Now, we're coming through a professional lens here today. What we're about to talk about can apply to every facet of your world. So you get to choose how you want to work with this for yourself today. You may have a lot of clarity. You may know exactly what you want to look at, and you may be exploring today, and that's totally okay. For our setup, just for a few items of clarity, I'm going to be sharing these slides with you all afterwards. So everything in here, you'll get a copy of. That includes my contact information. We are recording today, so I'm going to encourage you to participate and ask questions throughout. Do not be afraid to put up your digital hand if you have a burning question. We'll have time at the end, obviously, to go back and forth about things. You can also put questions in the chat. And if there's anything you don't feel comfortable sharing or asking in this public and recorded forum, you can reach out to me via email, and that's on the last slide for you. So I just want to lay that out up front. So let me start by telling you who the heck I am. So as Adam said, I'm a professional leadership and life coach. I live in Salt Lake City, Utah presently. And I've given you on the slide here a little bit of my background. I've been a professional coach for a little over 6 years now, officially. And for 10 plus years before that, I've done training, career development, corporate management, and leadership. I've managed teams. I work with leaders in all kinds of capacity. I love working in corporate environments and with individuals. My background is really unusual, and if you ever want to hear more about that, we can catch up and talk about it. But I have a background in the performing arts, higher education, medicine, nonprofits, and a variety of other industries. So that's a little bit about me and my bona fides for being here today. And we're going to start off with a couple reflective questions. Now, this is not the first question that I'm asking you, I promise. This is a really tough question, honestly, in most cases. So what is it you want? Now, again, you might have a lot of clarity on that, but I'm going to ask you two questions here, and I want you to just self-reflect. You might write this down, you might do this in your head, you might type this into your phone, but I want you to be thinking about these two questions. First, if you could change anything about your current circumstances, what are the top two things you would change? I'd encourage you to pick the lens you want to be looking at today through. So you may take this from a work lens, for instance. If you had a magic wand and could change anything about your circumstances there, what are the two top things that you would change? Anything. Probability or possibility be damned if you could change anything. What would it be? And once you've formulated those two, what is in the way of those changes happening? So if you've come up with your top two, what's stopping those? Or what's gotten in the way or could get in the way? Now, I told you I was going to be prompting for participation today. So I'm curious if anyone would be willing to share either in the chat or hop on your mic to share what kind of things are getting in the way or could get in the way of you getting those things. You don't have to share the specific what, but what gets in the way? Would anybody be willing to offer theirs? Thank you, Denise. Denise put it in the chat. I see smiles happening too. So uh, thank you. So Denise says, I want balance. So Denise, I'm going to ask you a follow-up if you don't mind typing that in the chat. What's in the way of balance? Ooh, work priorities. Denise, I bet a lot of people can relate to that. The demands of the priorities getting in the way of balance. Okay, great. So I want you to have those in mind, your top two things you want and what's getting in the way of those. And we're going to walk through a variety of different items here today. I do reserve the right, based on our time, to gloss over some of these slides too. I'm just going to say that in advance. We'll go with the flow of what's really happening for us. So we'll see where we go. But today's all about self-advocacy. I know I had the sexier title of The Secret to Getting Everything You Want. And I will share that top skill and secret with you. And what's really at the core of all of this is self-advocacy. So let's break down what that means first and foremost when I say that. Self-advocacy is how we are willing to show up in service of ourself and our goals. Like, what are we willing to do? What steps are we willing to take? How are we willing to challenge ourselves? It's all about our actions and our choices. And we have so much control there. And oftentimes, folks relinquish that control or forget they have that kind of control in their world. Now, there's one really important truth that I want to lay out here today. Because if you're motivated to create changes in your world, no one can do that for you. The truth is that no one else can show up for you more than you are willing to show up for yourself in any given circumstance. Like, nobody can care more than you. Nobody can want what you want more than you. Nobody can take more decisive action or will take more decisive action on your behalf than you yourself can. There's so much in our control. So we're going to be talking today about how you can harness that skill and bring that into your world to significantly increase the likelihood of getting the things that you want in your life. So I can't guarantee that you're going to get everything that you want. And we're going to talk about how you significantly increase the likelihood of that happening. So, I saw another one in the chat. Jacob shared, having more time to do the things I want is a desire. Great, Jacob. And all the other stuff I have to do is making that difficult. Ooh, totally fair. So I'm hearing priorities as a theme here today so far. Yeah, there's stuff getting in the way of what we're wanting to do. So let's start with a question for you. I have a really important distinction that I use with clients often that I want to introduce to you today. My question for you is, when it comes to creating the life you want, are you in the stands or are you on the court? Are you in the stands or are you on the court? So let's talk about what this distinction means. When I talk about being in the stands versus on the court, being in the stands looks like observing passively. Often people that are in the stands are living in complaint or critique. If you've ever watched any kind of sports game with a room of sports fans, there's a lot of feelings about what should or should not be happening on the TV at that time. I mean, if you've been in the stadium, Everybody's shouting their perspective down at the field in whatever's happening, or the court for whatever's happening. But you'll know you're in the stands in life if we are living through the lens of being in complaint or being in critique all the time. People that are in the stands in life are in the mindset of believing that there's nothing I can do, or they have all the control, meaning other people. They get to make the decisions. My boss gets to make the decision for me. Uh, you know, the broader world, the government, like, I'm not saying that laws don't apply, just to be clear, everyone. But what I am saying is being in the stands in life means being an observer, watching, agreeing or disagreeing, liking or not liking, and not being in the game itself. Being in the game is being on the court. So being on the court means you are actively performing, you are engaged in the process that's happening. You are running the plays, so to speak. You are constantly evaluating and recalibrating in the process of it. As you learn new things, as you try new things, you are going to pivot, you are going to make different moves, and you are believing, I always have options and, oh, sorry, I missed an and there because I changed this. I always have options and control over my choices. Basically, I'm in control of what's happening for me. Not all the circumstances around me, but what I do, I've got control over that. And I'm only limited by my own choices and creativity in that regard. So I bring this distinction up because it's really easy to be in the stands in different elements of our world. I mean, hell, it's easy to be in the stands versus on the court in a real game too, because we get to watch, we get to have our opinions. We don't have to actually go through the sweaty, challenging, difficult effort of engaging with the game itself. We have an option in any aspect of our world to either be in the stands or be on the court. So if I want to affect change in my world, I need to ask myself, where am I where am I in on the court versus being up in the stands? So you can ask yourself, what parts of your life are you most in the stands versus on the court in? So I'm just going to throw some options up here, and there are many more, obviously, but like career, obviously, is a huge one for us here today, being in a professional org. There are a lot of folks that are in the stands when it comes to their career. They want something and don't know how to create that or achieve that. They have a lot of feelings about how their boss is doing things. I think everyone can relate to that. Or maybe, let's say, administration, executives, the typical boogeymans that folks can have. People can be in the stands versus on the court with their family or their spirituality. Their health can be a big one. And adventure, a sense of adventure in their life. Maybe they're bored. Friendships, finances, growth, and joy. Fun would be another word. Like in any of these areas in your life, if you want to have a change there, if there's something that you want, are you on the court actively trying to create it? Or are you in the stands passively waiting for it to happen? So that's at the core of what we're really talking about today when it comes to how to get more of what you want. We've got to check in first. Am I actively engaged or am I passively watching? Now, again, like I said, it's really easy to be in the stands. You might be like, I can't be on the court in every single facet of my life. And I just want to be a voice for that being okay. Like we all have limited energy and wind. We do not have to play every game all the time full out. And you get to evaluate for yourself, like, is it worth it to me to engage with this in a new way? So that's what I want to share as the distinction here. It's like for whatever area you chose for those two items you want to create a change in, what percentage of you is in the stands and what percentage of you is on the court? And I encourage you to write that down for yourself. And we're going to talk about some ways that you can shift that and really get in the game. So, okay, I promised that I would share with you the secret, and I'm going to call it the number one skill that you need to master if you want to create more of what you want in your life. And I don't think this is going to blow your mind, and it might blow your mind at the same time. Or you might be mad at me. I don't know. But the number one skill is asking for it. Literally making the ask for what you want. Now, that's really simplified, and we significantly increase the likelihood of getting what we want if we are willing to ask for it. Now, there's some art to this. There is some skill to the asking. I'm going to walk through some of those things today too. But really being willing to step forward and ask is the most critical thing you can do. Now, is it possible that you could get the things that you want without asking for it? Sure. I am open to the possibility that that can happen. Maybe somebody just reads your mind, or they, there's a lucky swing and you get it. And are you willing to leave that up to chance? Are you willing to outsource the likelihood of this thing happening, or do you really want to drive that change for yourself? So yes, I am serious. Asking for what you want is 100% necessary in this process. Now, I also asked you what's getting in the way. So let's touch on a few of those things. Now, we talked about priorities in the chat. There are other competing priorities. So when I talk about what's getting in the way for making an ask in particular, many people miss this step of asking for what they want for a couple different reasons. Now, there are many. Here are just a few. They worry about the rejection. What happens if I ask and I get a no? Totally legit. That's possible. 100%. That is on the spectrum of possibilities when you make an ask. They don't want to be seen as selfish or rude or needy or obnoxious. Insert your negative adjective here. They don't want to be seen a certain way because they're making an ask. Perhaps they've been socialized not to ask. Now, culturally, this could be an element, given your position, your organization, the norms there. You might believe that you shouldn't ask. And sometimes people just literally didn't know that they could. Like, they could make the ask. Now, you might be saying, that's really obvious. Why did I get on here for this guy to tell me I need to ask for what I want? Fair. And I'm just throwing it in as one step in the process. So what does self-advocacy actually look like in action? I have a 4-step process here for you. The first step is knowing what you want. Now, we prompted that today up first with that question. Like, if you could change anything about your circumstances, what are the top 2 things that you would change? Now, when we're talking about priorities or competing priorities, that might look like, I want more of X and less of Y. Okay, great. You actually need to figure out what it is you want before you can proceed with anything else. Now, there are a lot of processes that I could take you through to share how to tap into what you really want in all these different facets of your life. If that's something that you're interested in personally, I'm happy to share those in an email. We don't have time for all that today. And follow up with me. I'm happy to share some ways to get insight on that when you're taking a bigger picture view of your life. But this is step number 1, knowing what you want. If you are sitting in a sense of vague dissatisfaction or complaint, you need to ask yourself, do I have a request here? What is it that I really want? And then we can work with that. But if we're just in like the vague dissatisfaction, we can't really do a whole lot with that. So we need to slow it down and make it a little more concrete. You might even ask yourself, what is one thing I would add to my life, and what is one thing I would dissolve from my life to like increase my satisfaction overall? That might be another way to tap in for you. The second step is asking for what you want. Like I said, that's part 2. Know what you want, be willing to ask for what you want. I've got more tips on that here in a second as to what I really mean and how to do that. The third step is co-creating what you want, because we might not get exactly what we're asking for, and that's not the end of the road. The third step is co-creation with the person that you are talking to or working with, getting creative, and we'll talk more about that in a second. And then finally, it's choosing. Choosing is the final step. With all the information at hand, with the clarity, with the ask, with the creativity, then you get to choose. You get to choose what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And we want that choice to be active because we really want to be signing up for whatever we are choosing into. Again, not being a passenger or an observer in our life, but really being active, really being on the court. Alexi says, want to be skinny. Okay. I think that's fun. We could work with that. This will be interesting assuming it is a sincere goal and not a joke. And I don't know you personally, so I can't say. Uh, we can work with that. That'll be a little bit different. Real. Okay, cool. Lexi, thank you. So you've got that step number one, that clarity of knowing what you want. Now, asking for what you want will be interesting. So Lexi, we'll bounce back and forth here. So when I talk about asking for what you want, like we want to do this a little more artfully than can I have blank. So first, these are just some basic points, like who to ask. Who is the person that is closest to the control over the thing that you are wanting? Like, who can affect the change that you're looking for? And then who else might be involved in that change as well? So if this is a work example, for instance, you might say it's like, well, my boss's boss really has control over this, but my boss would also be involved. Also, this other person. You want to know who you actually are directing this to that can affect what you're looking for. Like for me, I have a constant running complaint about the drivers in Salt Lake City. And, you know, I would love to make some change there. And I guess the only person I could really go bother is the governor, but he's probably, so Spencer Cox probably isn't going to hear me out on changing the driving laws and tests in Salt Lake. So you may run into the issue of like, there isn't someone else to be asked. We get to make peace and get creative with that as well. Like, okay, in that example, it's like, all right, I'm not going to go to the governor. So what can I do with that to affect that change? How can I make shifts within myself? So Alexi, this is a great example that you gave. It's like wanting to lose weight or be skinnier. That there's not really an external person that has control over that. So this is going to be an internal decision and creative planning process for you. When do you ask if there is an external person? Don't wait forever. I have worked with so many people that have sat in dissatisfaction for a long time, and all they do is cultivate resentment within themselves. We've all worked with those people too, who are grumpy that nothing has changed, but they've never actually done anything to ask or make a shift for themselves. And also, when you're making an ask, don't rush it. Don't try to like do this as a drive-by at your boss's office. You want to give it time. This is a conversation, really, what we're doing. It's not a one-line ask. Where to ask, almost always do this live also. Now, live might be virtual like this, but if I'm making a big ask or a significant ask, I don't want to send this via text. We lose so much there. You've all heard that advice before, but doing it live. Now, how to actually ask, I mentioned, I'm going to give you like all the nitty gritty here. There's a formula for this. You want to state your desire, like what you're actually looking for, and then asking the what or how around that. So you want to be clear about what it is you're looking for, and then ask what and how questions to open creative thought and process around it. Now, creative thought, you've already thought of like, what do I want? And there might be more ways to get there than the route that you think exists. We're getting into a collaborative thinking process with someone when we're doing this, when we're making that ask. We're not saying, give me this thing. What we're doing is inviting someone into a discussion and a creation of that outcome. We want to get away from those closed-ended, like, may I or can I kind of questions, like, can I have 10,000 more dollars in my pay? Yikes, that's a yes or no. And I would want more of a discussion than just yes or no. Now, if it's yes, I'm fine with that. And if it's a no, I'm going to want a little bit more discussion on that. So stay away from those can I, should I, will I questions. Focus on how and what. Some examples of what this could look like. I'm really interested in raising my salary by about 10 to 20K. What are some ways I could go about creating an increase like that? So let's say I was talking to my boss on this front. If I'm dissatisfied with my salary and I am looking for more pay, I'm not going in and saying, give me this. I'm saying, here's what I'm wanting. How can we do that? What are some ways? I'm effectively opening the conversation and getting them into creative thought around it. The other thing, I want to participate in a leadership training program to improve my work with my team. How could I work that into my schedule to make that happen? I'm opening it up for them to respond with options. Now, they may say other things, they may have questions on that. And this is how I would open that ask, with that kind of question behind it. Now, what happens if you get a no? This is where we want to focus on getting co-creative. We want to focus on what's possible, not what's not possible. Now, co-creation, when I say that, it's a process by which we work with the other person or people to build a path to where we want to go. So it's collaborative, meaning that we're working together with the other party, not in opposition. I encourage you, before you go into any of these kind of ask discussions when another person's involved, uh, don't go into it with a me versus them mentality. You want to be on the same team. That's why we're asking this question. We're getting collaborative with them. But if I'm viewing it as like there is a win-lose scenario here, that's going to be really tough. We also want to focus on being expansive, coming up with many options to reach a goal, not staying fixed on the one way. Now, again, you probably have a way in mind that is the way to get you what you want, or the way to accomplish that. And are you open to the possibility that there could be other ways? They might look different than you anticipated, especially when we're working in an organization where there's hierarchy. Like if I'm asking my boss this, they're going to have a different perspective than me. So I want to be able to open up that discussion and get more of their perspective. Heck, they could even know an easier way or a totally unknown way to me based on their perspective and who and what they know. Co-creative is, well, this one's in the name, or co-creation is creative. So it's using unique or unconventional ideas and perspectives to achieve that goal. How can you get creative? Especially like if we're talking through a work lens, if you want to make a change and let's say that path doesn't already exist, can you become an entrepreneur on your own? Can you be inventive and blaze a new trail, create new paths? If the path doesn't exist, is it something you can make? So this is where this is the mindset we want to be into. It's not a yes or no game. You know, now listen, if I ask for something and I get a yes, Yahtzee, that's wonderful. And if I get a no, that's not the end of it. To quote a coach that I really appreciate, Steve Chandler, he says, yes lives in the land of no. Like it is somewhere in the gray more often than in the black or white. It's going to be some version of that. And I want to create that with the other person on the other side. Some examples here of things that I might ask to shift it into co-creation. So I hear you saying that what I'm asking for isn't an option. What other options might be possible to move in that direction? So I got to know what else could be possible. Or if this path isn't available, how can we get creative to affect a similar change? I want to not take no as the final answer. I want to ask another expansive and creative question to create more room and more introspection, slow things down a little bit more. Now, knowing your options, this is really important. That's why we go through this step-by-step process, figuring out what we want, asking for what we want, getting into co-creation. That's where we've got a full plate of options available to us. Again, that's why we want to co-create. We want to broaden that out. There might be more than we're even thinking of. So sometimes we go through this process, though, and we learn that what we most want isn't available to us. And that can be for a number of reasons. For instance, the person in control isn't able or isn't willing to assist. That happens. I have been that person personally. I have made an ask of an executive in an organization, and they were not willing. Point blank period. Now, could they have done it? Absolutely. I was asking for funds to like pursue some greater leadership development when I was a coach within this organization. And it was a no. They just weren't willing. And it was the top person. So that was the final no. It's not that I was going to like run it up the chain. They weren't even willing to get creative about it. It was a flat no. So Another possibility is the environment or situation really doesn't have the ability to support that. It's possible that where you are right now can't meet you at where you want to be. That's real. That happens. There are a lot of times this comes up with folks that I work with in a corporate setting where they want something that is not going to happen at that organization. It might be like a difference in a policy. Everybody's talking about return to offices presently. And if what somebody wants is a mostly remote position, and that is not available in the policy of the organization, that's good to know. They don't want to spend their time railing against that or fighting that because it ain't going to change. But you know your options. You can also find out that getting there, or where you want to go rather, is going to take longer than you're willing to wait. Maybe that path is available and it's going to take a lot longer than you're comfortable with. All in all, we want to do this so that we know what our options are. We want to know the lay of the land so that we can make an informed decision, because that last piece is choosing. That last part in the step is choosing what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So I want to bring this back here. What do you do when that path isn't open? The first thing we want to do is get out of the stands. Again, it's really easy to jump back in the stands after you've made the ask. You're like, okay, I did the play and they said no, and now I'm just going to be back here and be mad about it. Totally real. I have been there. When I made that ask of the executive and it was a hard no, no discussion, I went right back into the stands for a minute and I was pissed. Let's be straightforward about it. I was upset. I was in judgment. Uh, I was planning my exit. And, luckily, I was working with a coach and they slowed me down on this. So getting out of the stands could look like this. We need to first recognize that it's okay when your wants don't align with another person or organization. That's okay. I mentioned I've been giving work examples, and this could play out in different areas of your life. Like if you're thinking in a family sense and your spouse is involved, they may have different wants than you. And it's okay that those don't align all the time. Especially important in an environment like that, being in co-creation with the other person is really important. Getting creative about what's possible. You know, I think I'm stealing this from Dan Savage, but he's saying like a relationship between two adults is whatever they negotiate it to be. Like that's fine. You get to make it up as you go along. There are no rules in that zone. But you want to make it okay. Like it's okay that we don't align. My organization can't meet me there. My spouse doesn't want to meet me there. That's okay. Totally fine. We want to avoid making the other party wrong for not meeting you where you want to be. This is really important. Their answer is not about you. And I'm going to say that again. Their answer is not about you. It's really easy to personalize it. Let's acknowledge that. If somebody gives a no, it's really easy to translate that into no because they think I'm this, that, or the other. Or they may even put your name on it. Heck, no, you're not experienced enough for that. No, you're not this. No, you're not that. It's really easy to personalize it. And we want to let that just be their answer, their reflection, their perception, what have you. We don't want to take that on necessarily. So we want to get ourselves out of the stands by recognizing this, making it okay, not making anyone right or wrong, and then getting it onto the court. So this is where you can use your energy to focus on what choices you want to make for yourself. For instance, if there is something that I'm wanting in the workplace and I get clear on what that is, I make an ask of the person who's in control of that. They say, well, I can't do that. And we get into the co-creation discussion around it. And at the end of the day, it comes out that the thing that I'm wanting is not going to happen there. I get to focus on what I'm going to choose. You have the choice to stay and choose into the present reality as it is, or you can make a choice to go. And both are completely legitimate choices. What you want to do is slow it down and figure out like what is most valuable to me, what's most important to me. There are plenty of people who stay in jobs and organizations that don't meet their ideal because it does support their ideal in another facet of their life. Totally legit. And you want to slow down and consider it. It's like, if the answer is a no, am I comfortable choosing into staying as is? You could even do a 1 to 10 scale to help, figure this out for yourself. It's like, how critical is it that I achieve this change? What we don't want to do is live in the fantasy and indecision that, well, if I push hard enough, what I want is going to happen. If I'm, frustrated looking enough, they'll certainly figure out that they have to give me this. If I threaten to leave, as somebody who's worked in HR before, that's fine. That never is a scary prospect. When somebody said that, it's like, okay, yeah, that's fine. You can absolutely do that if that's a fit for you. In fact, I'd say, like, if that's supportive for you, you should. So you want to focus on what choice you're making for yourself. Are you choosing in or are you choosing out? Or are you choosing to make a change for yourself within the confines of the current reality? This is something that only you can do for you. Only you can, like, choose what you're going to do here and take ownership of that. And I really want to hammer that home again. That truth is that nobody is ever going to want what you want more than you. Nobody has the ability to show up for you more than you. You get to make these choices. This is something that I work on with clients every single day is, how can I shift? How can I reframe? How can I be differently in a way that's going to help achieve my goals? Not about anybody else. So that's the 4 steps. Clarifying, knowing what you want, asking for what you want, getting into co-creation, and then choosing actively. So I have 2 questions that I want to offer as reflection for us today, and then we'll open it up for general thoughts and questions. Uh, what is the most striking new awareness you're having as a result of your time today? In your reflections, where are you in the stands versus on the court? If you want something and you're acknowledging, okay, you know what, I'm in the stands on that, are you willing to get on the court for it? The second question for you is, what actions are you willing to commit to taking to being 10% more on the court in your day-to-day life? Like, if you were going to show up more on the court, what would that require you do differently on a day-to-day basis in order to make that happen? So I wanted to share my thanks for everyone being here today. I also have put my contact information on here, my website, and my email. You can email me if there's something that was brought up today that you didn't want to bring up in the group chat or in a group discussion with strangers or colleagues. Totally hear that. And you are welcome to reach out to me for any of those resources that I mentioned, for any questions that you have. Please feel free to. This is the work that I do with folks all day, every day, is helping them create more of what they want in their lives and seeing more possibilities than what they might have in mind right now. So I would welcome the opportunity to continue the conversation with any of you. Please, please feel free to reach out. All right, Adam, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Patrick, for that talk today. Please thank me in giving Mr. Fulton I guess, an emoji round of applause, since this is how we live our lives now, for his time today. And I appreciate everyone's attendance in this Cycle Wellness webinar, and I hope everybody has a good rest of their Thursday. Thank you.